Femen is a feminist group based in Kiev and Paris, founded in 2008. Femen has attracted worldwide attention for their topless approach to their feminist cause and mission. I am joined by one of the group's founding members, Inna Shevchenko from Paris. Inna, thanks for joining us and welcome to Radio Piam.
Hello, nice to hear from you.
Inna, could you tell us what the genesis of Femen and the intentions and mission were for this particular group?
Well, I think on this question I could answer in two different meanings, let's say, because if we would go in personal reasons and our personal reason of each of us in the group who started the movement, I will have to make clear that we started this movement in the country, in a post-USSR country, in the country of deep depression, political depression, economical depression, in the country where obviously women's rights, the question of women's rights was never discussed in the streets or in media or of course in parliament as well. So we started our movement in a country of full ignorance to women's issue, to social issues in general, I would say. So this was one of the main reasons for us to start it. Each of us, personally, we were growing after USSR was destroyed. I was just born. I was born in the year of USSR was destroyed, and my childhood was definitely I was observing poverty. I was observing unemployment of my parents. I was observing. I remember, if you would ask me what I remember from my childhood, I remember cold water during winter and no electricity in my house. So all this, of course, was kind of personal reasons for each of us to be involved in this activity. If we would talk more on theoretical level, what is Femen and why do we exist here and why did we start our activity? Definitely, the reason, the general reason, is our fight. We have the only one enemy, and the name of this enemy is a patriarchy. And each manifestation of patriarchy, each representative of this patriarchal culture all over the world, in any country, in any city, we are targeting, we are coming, we are facing them with only one mission: to show what is the reality today, to show the patriarchal reality, to show the violent influence of patriarchy on this society, and of course to demand a full crash of this system, of this culture, and to demand women's rights back.
Thank you, Inna. You said breasts as bombs can be affected. How so?
Exactly. This is what we are screaming in each part of the world where Femen exists, where Femen idea exists for today. We are saying my body is my weapon, my breasts are my bombs. We are replacing all those violent ways of fight. We are replacing, let's say, we are taking to ourselves this violent language, let's say. We transform it to a peaceful but aggressive one. We are saying that my body is my weapon. I'm sure, and we proved it, that today women's body that can be inside of political context is very dangerous, and very, very dangerous to the system, very dangerous to patriarchal culture. And, we are always saying, so many people say, it's not necessary to be naked, or we support that your naked body is really something we cannot understand. The thing is that we start a women's fight. We start fight against sexism, against machismo, against misogyny, and against patriarchy in general, let's say. Women's body, a naked woman was always an instrument of this culture, of patriarchal culture. It was always in the hands of patriarchy. It was always kind of working for it. It was always pleasing patriarchy all over the world. We are turning it. We decided, we choose not to hide our body, to say we are free and we want our rights. We choose to get our bodies back to its rightful owner, to women. So today we are showing to the world that this is naked body is controlled by women only. This is naked body is owned by women only. And decision about what this body is going to be, only women can make. So we are showing that our decision is to use our body with a political reason, is to use our body as a political instrument, as a political weapon to get our rights, to get our freedom back.
Thank you, Inna. I'll get back to that political reason in just a sec, but let's continue with what you referred to as better naked than burqa. Could you tell us what the significance of the hijab and what's your message to the people who you are reaching?
Well, when we're saying better naked than burqa, I think like the question that you're asking me is not really well formed, because when we're saying such a slogan or any other point about against hijab or against burqa, we are talking not with those people that are wearing that hijab or that scarf. We're talking with those who are making a huge propaganda. We're talking with with a religious institution that is just teaching the world that woman is guilty for the fact that she is woman. Woman is dirty. Woman has to be to hide herself. Woman has to keep their dignity for man and not for herself. We are saying that the burqa is not a women's clothes. It's a clothes of man's system for women. And we can go, of course, in a very deep discussion about those people who could wear it on their own wish. And I never deny that there are some women who are wearing scarf or hijab and could take it off tomorrow. They are. And like, I live in Paris, in a very multicultural city where there are a lot of women who could tell me I can take it off if I want, but I keep it because this is my own choice. I mean, definitely we can discuss it, and I would not deny the existence of such a thing, maybe till some point. But we cannot talk about burqa, we cannot talk about hijab as a choice until the moment hijab is existing as a kind of the thing that women are obliged to do in many parts of the world. That's why I call it's very dangerous to say that hijab is a choice of women, even though it can be your own choice if you live, for example, in Berlin or in Paris. Even though you're free to claim it's your own choice, I believe that this is very dangerous for sisters of those women, for friends of those women who are living, for example, in Saudi Arabia or Iran, where they are obliged to wear it. Burqa, it's a man's clothes, it's a patriarchal clothes made for women.
You mentioned those countries which I am referring to, including Iran. You may recall Amina Tyler,
Yeah.
the 19-year-old Tunisian activist who posed in a controversial image smoking a cigarette, baring her breasts with Arabic written across her chest, "My body belongs to me and is not the source of anyone's honor." We saw what happened to her. In your opinion, Inna, how will your tactics benefit women in such a country like Iran?
Well, I think that there is one of the first steps that we still have to do that is not still that was not made still in many countries, or was made, but then after, like for example in Iran, we cannot really believe what happened to this amazing country after revolution, right? And we all are remembering and watching some documentaries or images on internet before revolution, when women were wearing skirts and reading books and studying, on their own, and we just, in a way, we cannot believe what could happen to that country. So, well, I think that today it's really an important thing to show a sign of women's resistance to this system. This is the first thing. And when women is taking off her t-shirt, she's just, I think this is kind of an attempt. It's an attempt to rethink the system, to rethink the history that made us being slave of this system. So this is kind of a public call to this society, the call to fight. And this is what is the main idea of it: to take off t-shirt in public, writing political message on your breast, showing your aggression, but not smile on your face, not trying to attract men with your sweet voice, but screaming your political slogan. This is a revolution for this society. This is something very dangerous for patriarchal system. And of course, in such a countries where religious institutions are taking control over human rights, over freedom of speech, over freedom of people in general, and at the first place, freedom of women, this is something that is really working. And I could say that this is exactly, that is like our protest, I always say it's a test. It's a test for society. When Amina posted her picture on Facebook saying that she is a Tunisian woman, right away in few days she got death threats from one of Tunisian imam. She was kidnapped. She was kept illegally, like on force by her family. They were inviting imams every day and were reading Quran under her head. They were forcing her with religion. They were believing they can change this evil thoughts of freedom in her head. This is exactly this is the mission of Femen, to show how big is resistance to women's freedom today. And sometimes, especially in European countries, people are with this romantic point of view, maybe at some point, saying that, well, there is not such a big need today for women to fight and to resist. We are saying no, there is a big need, and that's why we are doing, and we are showing the reality. We're exactly showing the reality. And I really think that's like you can just watch Femen action and see the reaction on those action in each of the country, and you can exactly identify what is the political situation in that country, especially regarding women.
When referring to women's rights, and you mentioned Amina was kidnapped, and I also heard that you were kidnapped in Europe, who are your opposing factions or movements? Who clearly is your enemy?
Well, I will not go for a very long answer, because if we would start to talk about exact names or something, the list will be very big. I will say shortly that my enemy is and will be everyone who will try to shut my mouth as a woman. Why do they want to do that? Because this is a fight of domination. In history, there was always one part of society that wanted to dominate. So at some point, the society was built with immense domination, and to keep the domination, definitely they want to shut our mouths. They don't want women to get education. They don't want women to realize that that they are owning their own body. They don't want women to drive cars. They don't want women to open their faces. They don't want women to communicate with other men or women around or whatever. So this is fight for domination, and sometimes we all are talking about equality, but well, look around and I'm really, like, I'm calling everyone to stop to believe those fatalistic ideas. Let's be realistic at some point. I'm for integrity. So we call everyone to look around and objectively to realize and identify what is this society. This is the man's society. This is the man's world, where women are just turning around them. And who made them? Of course, definitely this system made them turning around man. You think that we want to do that? Definitely no. That's why we are fighting with
Your action is very exclusive. Could this be construed as anti-feminist?
Anti-feminist? Well, of course, I would never come to such a point. We are feminists. We are feminists as suffragists, or as such a big feminist movement in 70s that was all over Europe. We are feminists, and I would never say we start something completely new. We continue something that was started before, that already got a lot of results. fights in Europe that like feminists got the basic rights to vote, to be elected, and everything. So we just continue. But I will tell you, like, if I could take some time to tell my personal story, how I became feminist. I was growing in a country where really, if I as a young girl, if I could be interested in ideology like feminism, and I could not have a person, my teacher or professor in university or my parents or people in the street who could explain me what is this ideology. It never came to that part of the world, the feminism in its active form. We definitely all heard the term, but definitely all who were studying, we definitely heard about European practice, American practice, but we never felt it by ourselves. We never were involved by ourselves, and we never identify the people in my country and in general in Eastern Europe. They were never identifying this ideology as a part of our society there. So I remember when I started to read feminist theory. I was reading something, yeah, of course, I was studying like these classical feminist books, let's say, as I was reading Simone de Beauvoir. Definitely it was at some point interesting, but at some points it was, for me, for 18 years old girl, it was kind of boring in a way. And then I had a feeling like, well, I understand why people are not so interested in feminism around me, because it's actually boring somehow. I was thinking, being 18 years old. And then I remember that I met a group of women who were like age of maybe 70, who came from Germany, and they were those activists those active feminists who were in the street, who were observing how the book of Simone de Beauvoir came out, and it was so new, and they were explaining me how fresh were those feelings, how it was new, how it was inspiring. And I realized that the feminism as an ideology somehow has to be rethinked and somehow has to be adapted to my own interest, my interest of 18, 19 years old girl that lives today in completely different time, let's say, from the time of Simone de Beauvoir, right? So this is what exactly we started to do, and we realized that feminism has to be rethink any ideology. If you want your ideology to stay alive, if you want your ideology to develop and to influence mind of people, you have to rethink it, you have to adapt it to minds of those people, you have to make it trendy, you have to make it popular. This is what Femen does, but we are feminists, and we continue what other feminists started before.
You claim that you are not politicians, and yet you attract the attention of government leaders, presidents, and high officials. In my opinion, this is the essence of political activism. How do you define yourselves, and what is the future of Feminine? Will you be still topless women proving your mission, or will you need to find alternative directions to further your message?
If we're politicians or not, maybe actually I said one time that we are not politicians, but with the meaning that we are not sort of those politicians who are seeking to get a chair of minister, and to fight with another ministers or whatever, how it often happened in my own country. So we are definitely, Femen is definitely a political movement, and we are political activists. And I really believe that many important political decisions are done in the street at the first place, and they have to be done in the street. And so we are a political movement. And about future of Femen. Well, this is very like strategical point, about the movement, and definitely I'm thinking about that permanently every day. And as now the movement is growing as an international movement, and we have branches in 10 countries for now, and we unite women, different nationalities from different points of the world. I cannot, I definitely will not tell you exactly what what the Femen will be in 1 year or in 2 years, because this is, first of all, this is like collective decision, this is collective work. But as a strategy, I definitely think that Femen will always keep our activists, even if it will be at some point branch. We will always keep our street activity until the moment it's needed, definitely. But I also cannot accept the fact that maybe one day Femen activists will continue their political activity in the governments of different countries in the world.
When you started Femen, did you ever think it would be recognized internationally in various branches and countries? And what challenges does Femen face? For example, closure of your Facebook account, controversy with various religions, issues with governing bodies. How do these affect your movement?
Well, of course, the fact that they're closing our Facebook page is not the biggest challenge we're going through. As you know, as you mentioned before, that our activists can be kidnapped. Me and two another Ukrainian Femen activists were nearly killed 2 years ago in Belarus, in Minsk. So, we're going through, of course, we're facing a lot of danger, but it's not just for provocation or something. We are doing our actions, and it never depends on us, the reaction on those actions. It depends on those who we provoke. And as we provoke violent people, as we face real killers, those who don't care to kill person or not, to put person to 5 years or not, they show their own face. For example, I cannot come back to my own country because of Femen activity. I'm searched as a criminal there, and I can get 5 years in jail. Same as some of other Femen activists. Our French and German activists spent months in Tunisian jail. We go through different challenges, but what does it change for us, or what does it mean for us? This is exactly the reason to continue this fight. That's it. Because we see how much they want to stop us. We see how much they want us to shut up. We see how much they want to hide our activity from eyes of other women, from minds of other women, and from the world in general. That's why for us, their violent reaction and those challenges that we have to go through, sometimes, of course, understanding that, I would not like to go through such a things if it would be my choice. But again, this is the main reason to continue this activity, because, before feminists were saying we can do it, I say that we do it right now. We are fighting right now.
Thank you for joining us in Radio Payam. In conclusion, what would be your message for women activists and any other women for countries like Iran who are suffering and fighting for their freedom?
I will say on the one thing that I can say that we cannot keep silent. So my advice and my support to all those women, my advice is to scream as much as you can about what you want and what your freedom is. And I also can promise for sure, can say that Femen will continue this fight, and we will be there as well.
Inna Shevchenko, thank you for joining us on Radio Payam.
Thank you, bye.
با درود، رادیو پیام تنها رادیو فارسی زبان در شرق کانادا است که از ساعت 10 صبح به وقت هالیفکس، 5 بعد از ظهر تهران، روزهای یکشنبه به مدت 2 ساعت به صورت زنده اجرا و پخش میشه. برای اطلاعات بیشتر و همچنین برنامه‌های گذشته به وبسایت ما radiopayam.ca مراجعه کنید.
Tune in to CKDU 88.1 FM every Sunday at 10 a.m. for Radio Payam with your host, Amir. On air since 2009, Radio Payam is the only Farsi show on the East Coast. For more information, visit radiopayam.ca.